Great. Hi, Matt. How you doing?
Hello.
Think we should get started, Ann?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Hi, everybody. I'm Gabrielle Gerhardt. I'm not Cindy, but I'm stepping in to chair this meeting as one of two new chairs on a regular basis. So bear with me as I ask Ann my questions as we go along. I can check off that I set it to record and I turned on the closed captioning. So we're going to start just doing very quick around the room introductions with your name and your hub. Towards the end of the meeting, we're going to come back and do around the room updates, so we don't need to do that right now. So I will call on someone and then ask you to call on the next person if you can, and if you can't, that's fine. I'll step in and see if I can keep track of who's been introduced or not. So I'm Gabrielle Gerhardt. I'm with the Windermere North Sandpoint Hub, and I'm going to ask Melissa to introduce herself next.
Wonderful. Hi, everybody. I am Melissa Pico. I am with the University Heights Hub near the U District.
Okay. How about Jody?
I'm Jody Grage. I am with the Ballard Commons Hub, and I knit. So when I'm looking down, it doesn't mean I'm not interested, but I think better when I'm knitting, which is sometimes helpful.
Thank you. All right, let's do Andy next and then Ann.
Andy Peck, formerly Belltown. Now I live in Maple Valley. I'm just lurking here. And Ann, you're next. How about that? You did a great job in that presentation. Was it last week?
Oh, thank you.
Yeah,
Thanks.
that was awesome. Yeah, it was very specific.
Thanks. I'm Andy Forrest. I'm Ann Forrest, and I'm in the Victory Heights Hub, which is Northeast Seattle.
Okay, how about Charlotte and then Cheryl?
And yeah, I'm new to this. I'm Charlotte Lefevre, and this is my partner, Philip Lipson, and we're just kind of trying to restart Capitol Hill.
Great, welcome.
Hello, I'm Cheryl Dyer. It's Ballard Loyal Heights.
Okay, how about Matt and Louise?
I'm Matt Blank from Ravenna Hub.
Louise, you're muted.
Louise Luthi from Laurelhurst.
Great. Catherine and then Frank.
Catherine Keller, Hummer Harris Hub.
Frank Gall, West Magnolia Hub.
Okay, let's do Bill and Pat.
This is Bill Fay. I'm with the Queen Anne Hub near the Queen Anne Community Center.
And I'm Pat Mork up in the northwest corner at Broadview. And I'm also mentioning I'm babysitting. So if another head pops into the picture or I leave, I'm double timing here.
Great. Susan and Erica.
Susan Sanders, Beacon Hill, Dejan Park Hub. I wish.
I'm Erica, Highland Park Hub, and this is Onyx and trying to get into trouble.
All right, Dave and Cindy, and then I think we might have hit everyone.
Hi, Dave Wilma, Seattle ACS. I live in the Licton Springs neighborhood.
Cindy Barker, Morgan Junction Hub.
Great. All right, that's everyone for now. If anybody comes in later, we can ask them to introduce themselves. So we are going to turn the agenda over now to Ann for the first item about pharmacies coordination.
Okay, I'm going to summarize. Cindy, you step in because you know more of the details of like the summit coming up and stuff. But so for a long time now, we as hub captains have been telling our communities, we've been suggesting, we've been implying that maybe after a big earthquake, you can bring your pill bottle to to a local pharmacy and get it refilled. And Cindy started the conversation with the Washington State Pharmacy Association, WSPA, to kind of find out what their plan is as far as, getting people their chronic medications. We're not talking about Tylenol and Motrin and, Pepto-Bismol and that kind of stuff. We're talking about medications you take every single day that would greatly impact your health if you didn't have them, and how to keep that supply coming. So we found out from the pharmacies that they have zero plans of giving us medication after an earthquake until the whole system is back up and kind of restored. The reasons for that are many. Number one, they like many systems we're finding out operate on a just-in-time delivery system. So they don't have weeks and weeks of heart medication and diabetes medication and COPD medication. They don't have stockpiles of this stuff in their pharmacy. They get it delivered on a weekly or maybe twice a week basis all the time. So A, they would run out very, very quickly. B, if it's a large disaster or a long-term power outage and they don't have electricity to their pharmacies, they're going to have to figure out how to see what they're doing, how to get their security bars up that enclose the pharmacy, how to figure out if you're truly on this drug, how to make sure they're not giving you a drug that's counteracting some other drug. So all those safety mechanisms they have in place in a pharmacy to make sure they don't give you too much or give you something that's going to collide with some other medication. That whole system is gone if they don't have access to the internet. They also can't contact your pharmacy. Contact your insurance company. They can't bill your insurance company. So there's lots of hurdles in place. And at this point, they're not jumping up and down to make changes in their system to make sure that people have medications after a big disaster. There's just so many hurdles. That's not on their agenda. So we were hoping to get some serious blasting of information. We were hoping the pharmacy community would get some serious education out to the community on the fact that you have to stock up on meds. You cannot rely on walking to a pharmacy after a big disaster and filling up. It hasn't come out. We're hoping October we'll see more of a push in the media and that kind of stuff. The conversation is underway, and there is a pharmacy summit on October 4th. I'm going to watch Cindy's face to see if I'm getting this wrong. I'm not able to attend, so I haven't been paying real close attention, but it's a summit between the big pharmacy folks in Washington State and a lot of folks from the disability community. Because, not only can they not walk to the pharmacy and get their medications refilled, they can't walk to the pharmacy a lot of times. So they have even more hurdles than someone without access and functional needs would have. So we're starting that conversation about what can we do to help out. So the pharmacy, it's not necessarily open to the general public. It is a conversation between pharmacies and members of the access and functional needs community, and a lot of emergency management folks too. So that's coming up early October. Again, hopefully in October, you'll see more on, public service announcements and that kind of stuff about medications. So our messaging for our communities right now is you kind of have two options, and they're not super clear and we're not super certain that they will work, but two options are: you lie to your pharmacy and you say, I dropped my entire bottle of pills in the toilet. You can see how that's a very plausible story. Or I left it on a plane, it got lost in my luggage, my dog ate it, whatever. Basically lie to the pharmacy and say, my whole bottle of pills is gone. Can you refill it? And see what happens. There is a way where, oh, Cindy, I should have looked this up. Do you remember the words that you used to trigger insurance to pay for it? There's a word, it's a 2-word thing. And if I can find it, I'll send it along to be included in the minutes. But some insurance companies have a program where if you use these secret words, that it's like a one-time emergency refill and it's covered under insurance. So the issue of lying to your pharmacist and saying, I lost all my pills, the issue is insurance may or may not pay for that extra 30-day supply or extra 20-day supply or whatever it is they're willing to give you. So you need to ask the pharmacist to call your insurance company. I'll give you the keywords, and then talk to the pharmacist about whether or not this will be covered. So that's one way to do it in kind of like one fell swoop.
So
the other,
Melissa, tell us what you did.
Oh,
so I saw her laughing from the beginning of this, so I've been dying to hear what was going on.
I'm just not surprised. But so I recently changed jobs, which means I had to change insurance. And turns out to see a primary provider was like a 3-month wait. And I have anxiety and depression. So I have medications that I take every day. And, you know, believe it or not, I get anxious if I get low on them and I don't have access to them. So I was on a wait list to see a new psychiatrist. And the only option I had to get my medication refilled was that I went through this like virtual like Zoom care. I showed them the bottle. I described like, I'm on a wait list and I need this medication. And so he sent in the refill to like the mail-in place, the Express Scripts. But then my psych actually called me and they were like, hey, we have an opening. Oh, like someone canceled for tomorrow. And I was like, yes, please. So then I talked to her and she was like, I'm just going to send it to Bartell's because it's going to take 2 weeks to get it from mail order. So go pick it up at Bartell's. So I went and did that, and I got the one in the mail. I thought the two systems talk to each other. They do not. I still get stuff mailed from mail order, and I can go pick it up at Bartell's. And so I have like over a month extra just because the two don't talk to each other, which I was really surprised to learn.
Me too.
That sounds like the hard way to do it. Yeah.
Good on ya.
And we're hoping that in this pharmacy summit, more clarity comes out about other ways to do this than lying or tricking, you know, because they all recognize that everybody sort of points to a FEMA program where they have a, you know, like drop in a pharmacy, but that's not going to happen for weeks. It's going to be one place in the whole city. And the most, you know, the people on life safety medications aren't even going to hear about that where it is. So it's just a really bad situation. We're hoping this conversation starts. And I did want to say, with Ann not attending, if any of you are really interested in this topic and can help take notes for, because I'll be attending too, but I'm the only one. Let me and Ann know, and we'll see if we can try and sneak a couple hub captains in. But it is filled up with pharmacy representatives, government agencies, government emergency managers, and access and functional needs folks.
Excellent. The other way of doing it, and it's a slower way to get this kind of stockpile, is, especially if you have a mail order pharmacy program, is just every, you know, at 5 days before you're gonna run out, well, I'm not saying that right, but just gradually refill it a couple days early every month. So if you can get, you know, 5 pills set aside every month, it'll take you, you know, 6 weeks to build up a 30-day supply. I think a 30-day supply is a reasonable amount, you know, maybe a little bit more. Something to think about though, is you don't want to get those pills and put them somewhere. You want to constantly be rotating those through so that you're not setting a pill bottle in your to-go kit or something like that. And then by the time you need it, it's, you know, you've changed prescriptions, you've changed strength, the pills are expired or whatever. So do not set this aside. It needs to be part of your ongoing rotation. So if anybody comes up if anybody has a way of doing it other than Melissa's convoluted journey, we'd love to hear about it. Like, how hard was it to get your pharmacist to talk to your insurance company? Did it cost you extra? There are programs that allow you to do this, but they're not in earthquake country, because we, you know, in hurricanes, you can
refilled a couple days early. Sorry, I think I just lost my audio. Can you guys still hear me? Okay,
Yeah,
good.
but you went
Yeah,
weird.
it just changed.
In hurricane country, you can get it refilled early because they know the earthquake's coming. And if you're a couple days, you know, you're going to run out in a couple days, they're like, oh, okay, here, we'll give you 2 weeks because we know an earthquake's coming and you're not going to be able to get to it. We don't get that. We don't get that warning in earthquake country. So,
Okay.
yeah, I think I
She
said
meant-
that wrong.
She
but you
meant
know what I mean.
hurricane country where you know it's coming, earthquake country where you don't. Yep.
Yeah, yeah. So that's kind of the pharmacy thing. We're it's very interesting. Cindy's doing a really good job of getting a handle on it and moving this forward because nobody else at the moment, at least in Washington State, is dealing with this.
I will say that I didn't have a problem getting my insurance paid for both, and it wasn't like there was no issue at all. It was from 2 different providers. So, you know, Zoom Care, it's like $35 to do like a virtual visit, and they wrote the prescription for me just because I had the bottle and I was like, I need it refilled and I can't get in to see someone. So, but my insurance, it was they paid for both, and it was never like a question or a problem.
Nice. Okay.
We know, and the importance is because your people could look up stuff and do it all online. That's when the time to do it, because after the disaster, when we've got no phone, I actually was in another seminar where they talked about durable goods like CPAP machines and, you know, the things that doctors also have to write prescriptions for. And they were talking about how to get those replaced for clients. So of course they were talking about, you know, after a hurricane, blah, blah. So we asked, how is this system of call the 1-800 helpline for Medicaid? It was Medicaid, Medicare. How does that work when there's no phones? And I mean, it was like cricket silence.
Yeah.
They just couldn't even conceive of that. It was like, do you think you guys could work on that?
It's a challenge. What's next, Gabrielle?
Oh, is that it in? Okay, great. The next thing is the welfare messages demo from Cindy. And sorry, Cindy, we misspelled your name on the agenda and I didn't catch it.
Do I care?
But we have several items from you. If you want to just walk through them, that would be great.
Okay, well, I'll put you to sleep with the welfare thing. So we wanted to give you a status. We've been talking for this for a while. And so I wanted to, and I know it drives some people nuts when I don't share the screen, but if I don't share the screen, I can't watch what's going, or I mean, you know, make it into a presentation. So I'm going to try that, see what happens. So if something comes up in chat, somebody let me know. So thanks to Dave Wilma for being on today too. He's been a really steadfast partner in making this work. So just a reminder that when we talk about welfare messages, we're talking about one of 2 projects that we put into play. We thought this welfare one was going to be super easy, and it's not, you know, so we can't wait to get this one closed up and go over to reunification. But welfare messaging is where you send a message to your out of area contact. It's just a quick status, I'm okay, or whatever the status is. You're asking the people to tell others in your family or you know, it's that point of friends that say, tell the rest of the family, tell my friends, post on social media that I'm okay, because people will worry about you. And it is a one-way message. It's very unlikely that we'll get it back. Reunification is the one we're going to work on. And that's where within a disaster zone, we might have people on one side of the city trying to connect with their family on the other side of the city to say, I'm okay, and this is my plan for reuniting with you. And we don't even know enough about that project to know what it's going to look like. So I just wanted to make sure you guys are understanding I'm focused on just these ones that go out of the area to outside the disaster zone. So the task we had was, because we heard the Safe and Well website was not functional anymore, how to send I am safe and well messages out of Seattle when all the normal communications are down, because Red Cross would typically set up a shelter and have the infrastructure available to make connections and do this kind of outside communication. But with that website down, They said they would use radio, but there was no procedures in place. So we had to make some assumptions that there's still no replacement that we know of. And because of the expected impact to the infrastructure, other things that have opened up to be used like Facebook, I'm okay, and Google apps, they're not accessible quickly because communications are down. So if you didn't get your first text out before the internet crashed, you know, you're leaving your family waiting to hear from you. And we also made the assumption that this method is going to use ham radios and that they'll be available. And so we had to think through, when you have available hams, how well trained are they? So we've kind of drawn up this flow of things, and all I'm going to take you through tonight is, this is sort of where we're at, and then I have an ask at the end. So when we're doing hub operations, when we get to the point where we think we can do welfare messaging, we would collect messages at the hub in paper format, probably. Then we have worked with the radio people to integrate into their systems so that a data entry person can put it into a template, hand that over to a ham radio operator on a thumb drive, or 70 messages over to a ham radio operator, and they have the technology and the means to send it out of the area, basically internet over ham radio. So sounds simple, lots of itty bitty little steps in there that we're having to test. So that's the flow. The other thing that's important at a hub is over here on the side, we need some signage, because there are rules within the ham radio community about when you send messages, they have to have some messages have to have enough information to get it to where it needs to go. And there is a limit on length of messages. And that's just baked into part of the messaging system in the ham radio community. So we're practicing creating signage that people can deal with in a very stressful situation, how to help them compose messages. And one of the good things we found out, and I'll show you an example of it in a minute, is that the ham radio community has already dealt with this in some ways, and they have what are called kind of canned messages. So if you come up and you say, I'd like to send a message and the text is this, all we have to do is type number 22. It's like picking off a menu. I like number 22, and that'll tell people where I'm going. So I'll show you that in a second. And then the third thing is, if we're having to do this in volume, is there any way to make it more efficient? Because we've learned that some of the messages can go super quick and straight to the person. How can we handle those? They're done on one template, and the other ones that have to go into what's called the national traffic system go another way. So this is just down here as a placeholder to go, well, when we have volume, is there any way to organize it better? This is just kind of a notional look at it.
Should the last line on that brown thing say short lines or sort lines?
Oh, Cindy's spelling is so horrible. I'm not sure where you're looking at.
I knew it was all her fault, right?
Yeah. Oh, no, sort the lines. No, it truly is meant sort the lines, like.
Oh, okay.
So if all you have is canned messages, you just want to say, I'm okay, and I'm staying at home, and tell the others, those are canned messages, and poof, you don't even have to type. But if you want to construct a message that, because you've had a fatality, or you need to tell people what hospital somebody's in, that's going to take longer to handwrite and then hand type. So, there's those kind of considerations about how would we sort things to make things flow smoothly.
Okay.
Good question. So Anne has drafted up kind of like, it always has a form. We always get new forms on these projects. So it's a little half pager, and it's, oops, my mouse is moving by itself. It's constructed in the way that we need the information. So this welfare message is who's sending it, who do you want to contact? If you have their email address, we're done collecting information about where it needs to go, and you can go down and do your message. If you have a cell phone with a carrier, that's all we need to know, and we can send the message. If you have something, you only have a landline, you only have a physical address, or you only have a cell phone, but you don't know their carrier, then it has to go in. I'll show you that in a minute, the radio system. And so that's why this form is written the way it is. Kind of looks weird, but, and then over here where it says numbers, that's where if you have a sign, and these are a national system. So these are numbers that are already existing. And you would just go, I'd like a number 27, and I'd like a number 30, and I'd like a number 40. And if that's all you need to say to your family, nobody has to type, it's just like 30, 40, and the template fills in the text. So I was cranking these out about 1 a minute today, doing some practice. So these are the 2 paths I just talked about. So that first chunk of it is the quick path. If you just have either of those 2 pieces of information, boom, it's going to go. It's got to flow through the handwrite, transfer it to a template to the ham radio operator. The slow path has one more step. You've got to collect a little more information, data enter it, pass it to the ham radio operator, and then it goes into the national traffic system, which I will not confuse you with, but it is a very rigid, I don't know if that's the right word, rigid system, kind of, in that they have all over America, they have ham radio operators who have assignments to watch for messages coming over the national traffic system and deliver those suckers. But, those people have jobs, they're not in an earthquake area. The tests we were doing, stuff would show up 3 days later, and if they're getting 7,000 messages coming out of the Puget Sound area, God knows what'll happen. But the system's there and it's been working since the 50s. So, that's one good thing, but it's slow. So just 2 quick pictures. The templates that we use, this one is called the quick message, and it's from, and all I have to do is put in an email or a phone number. Here, I can't show you, but if I click on those blue lines, it brings up my little menu and I go 30, 40, and 22, and it populates the message text. And I can also add, can't find the dogs, whatever else needs to be in there. And then you save it onto the thumb drives and pass it over. If you have to send one of those not quick messages, the template's a lot more complicated. Because it goes into that rigorous system, they have like 25-word limit, including periods. And this is where we ran into some buzzsaws. It's like, this is stupid, but now we understand why they do it like that. But to deliver, you have to know city, state at a minimum, and they get cranky if you don't have zip code. And I'm going like, do I know my dad's zip code? No. So, we're going to have to do some messaging about this, and hopefully people have enough juice in their cell phone to be able to look up something if they still have their cell phone with them. But it's the same thing. You can put in the pre-canned messages and you can add messages, but you don't get a lot for 25 words. So the ask I have, Anne is doing a exercise at Victory Heights, and she has foolishly, so generously offered to let this also be a site for the welfare messaging. And so if anybody's able to come and who would like to engage in this, we did not involve a lot of the hub captains because, like I said, we thought this was going to be fast and easy. Most of the issues have been over on the radio-ish transfer to radio side. And so we've just invented the form and the flow by ourselves. So we need some other eyes on this. So if you can go over to Victory Heights between 10 and noon, we're going to have a little extra table set up where we're going to have you guys create some welfare messages, or we might need people who are writing these down and handing them to, we need people who can be data entry people. Here's the paper message. We'll show you how to do the offline template. You do it, so that we get that sense of how hard is this to train people on the fly. So if you could let Anne know, Anne or me know if you're going to be able to do that, we'd appreciate it. Otherwise, I'm double booked. That Anne's double booked, I'm double booked. So it's kind of like, I'll be there first hour and get things started. So I could definitely use some competent hub captain help. Any questions before I stop sharing and go off of this? Oh, that was my speed thing. Dave, Wilma, do you have anything you want to add?
Just that what Cindy said, this is a work in progress. It's definitely a team effort, not only just within the Seattle ACS hub group, but also across the country with this national traffic system. What you may end up seeing will definitely be geared toward making it as simple as possible for relatively untrained. In other words, somebody will reach into the box and come up with a piece of paper how to handle welfare messages, and we want to make it work that smoothly. It's been very interesting and a lot of fun. And I just have one more thing to say when you're done, Cindy.
Yeah, you call this fun. You can't believe the stack of paper of going through all this stuff with these guys. Ann and I, our heads explode every time we have to talk about WinLink Express. Go ahead, Dave.
Yeah, the only comment I'd make, and it kind of fits in with this, is that in August, I participated in the Bigfoot 200 endurance race, in which we basically duplicate hub operations 14 times up in the mountains. No power, no cell phone service, no phone service of any kind. Everything is done by radio. And at one point, we went into the we put up our towers and we ran our antennas and we ran our feed lines and got our batteries working and got our tables, and it was just ham radio heaven, field day. And then one of the guys says, "Do you want internet?" And he had brought a Starlink setup. So if you've heard of Starlink, pay attention, because Starlink could very easily, if somebody in the neighborhood has a Starlink setup, it could very easily solve probably 75% of your communications problems. You won't be able to make a phone call, but you'll have internet, and that'll be very, very important to people. So if you have in the neighborhood, somebody has Starlink, sign them up for the hub, get them involved and get that involved, because that will, what happened to Elon Musk was selling Starlink. And then when the war in Ukraine started, he deployed just hundreds and hundreds of these Starlink things to give them internet access. And it had a very, very big military impact being able to bring in internet, because the Russians were doing a cyber warfare. Anyway, off the point. My point is Starlink. Back to you, Cindy.
Yeah, I mean, someday we'll have enough technology where the hubs can kind of relax on thinking we're the only thing around because we're so analog, but we're not there yet. They still got to run the Starlink on electricity. Matt?
Yeah, I just wanted to add on the subject of Starlink. Recently, T-Mobile made a deal with Starlink. I don't know if anybody's read about that, but they're working on bringing direct satellite communication to existing cell phones for T-Mobile subscribers. They've offered to extend it to other services as well, but right now the plan is next year, a lot of people with modern phones on T-Mobile will have direct access to Starlink internet through their phone without using a Starlink dish or any extra equipment.
Amazing.
So that
I'm
might
afraid
be
to
very
tell Ron
helpful
that.
too.
Anybody else? My God, I got 2 more topics. 3 more topics. Holy cow.
I'll just say there's a comment from Ann in the chat, which I think is just informational. So just if people don't have their chat up, they could take a look at that.
Okay, the next thing I have is just kind of a heads up, everybody. We went through a rash of vandalism and stolen boxes about 1.5 years ago, kind of at the beginning of COVID, and it's starting up again. We've had a box broken into and everything except the sign stolen from Fremont. Matt was telling us that, I don't know how long ago this happened, but somebody tried to drill out his lock. I know Ann's talked about her lock. So it's just make sure you go by your box fairly frequently and open it and just check that everything's okay. And then the other thing is I inherited the giant order of WD-40 special outdoor for hinges and locks. If anybody needs if they've used up their whole thing already, let me know, or new hubs that don't have one of those cans that helps us keep those boxes in working order and in the kind of moist Seattle, in Seattle environment. So just heads up about that. If it is stolen, please do file a police report, just so we got it. There's a folder in there from one of the first ones. You can find it down in operation stuff.
Yeah, and you can do that online.
Yep.
Yep.
Oh yeah, Matt's was a few years ago. Thought about putting a small, yeah, my mom gave me one of those, when I traveled a lot by myself, she gave me one of those things you put on your hotel door when it separates. And I've never used it because I just knew I would open the door and forget it was on there and scare everybody in the whole, hotel. So that I could donate it to that. The next thing is also kind of an update. When we had our night out, once again, we got a little too close to make a change where we've really said we'd really like to know who the block watch groups are around us as hub captains, so that we could interface with them and say, do you know about us? And just build those relationships out with already organized neighborhood groups. So this year, the Southwest Precinct community policing officer, oh my God, crime prevention. Yeah, crime prevention
coordinator
said, I'll talk to you guys after this. So Ann and I had a really good conversation with her. They are definitely, she's talking with all the other precinct crime prevention coordinators about, and their webmaster about creating what they used to have, which is a public facing map that says, our block is having a block party. We want to connect with new neighbors, because sometimes people move into neighborhoods and don't even know there's a block watch going on because signs disappear or people forget to go check in with why did there's a different car in the driveway. Is there someone new? And then that gives us a map that we can go, because a lot of you guys also participate on night out, so you don't have to worry about, I can't make it there on night out, but I can at least reach out to these people and connect and give them information. So that's one of it, is getting the map so we can see it ahead of time so we can make connections. And then the second half of it is, in some of the precincts, they stuff swag bags to give out to those parties. And in West Seattle, we've always put our West Seattle Be Prepared card in it. And so we asked about what could we do to get hub material distributed to all the block watch folks. So they're not, she's not promising that all the precincts will have swag bags, but these guys are just like snap groups, except they do block watch. And so maybe there's a combination we could do with OEM where it's snap on one side, hubs on the other, to tell people about the two other ways that that group of people can work together also in emergencies. So that's just an update. Oh, I'm going to go back to the vandalism. I forgot about that. Ann and I were talking, the folks who were at Fremont had a combo lock, and the guy sent us like, hey, this lock is really crappy. Now we found out, because here's the video that shows you how to pop it. And I said, well, I'd seen the video that shows you how to pop a keyed lock, the master 5s are what we were using. So the boxes have those little recesses. You can't just get any size lock. It has to fit in there. But does any of you know a better model of lock that will fit inside that? Put it in the chat or talk to Ann, because Ann really wants to solve this problem.
I did when my box got broken into the first time. I did spend some time online trying to see if I could find alternative locks that were designated to fit in that spot. I couldn't find anything online. There might be something if you bought it that you put it in there and you might be able to get it to fit. But I never found one.
Yeah, and our problem is we like those recessed boxes just for what Jack was putting in the comments, is then you don't have the shank available to cut with cutters. So anyway, if somebody stumbles across something, let us know.
In times past, oh, go ahead. I have a comment about the block watch. Let's finish the locks first.
Yeah, I was going to talk about the lock. I mean, what I was going to say is mine definitely has the shackle protected. It's covered by like quarter inch steel, but as long as somebody can access the back of the lock, they can probably open it if they want to.
Yeah, that's the problem. Yeah. Anything else on the locks? Okay, Jody.
In times past, the block watch captains couldn't even get the names of their fellow block watch captains. So I mean, so I don't know how far we can get with that, but I gather from the nodding of your head that that's still the case.
That is
Over.
still the case. And so what they would do is what they're talking about doing on their web thing is saying, if you, sign up and then having a big thing down at the bottom saying the value of connecting, are you willing to let your data be shared with these other community groups or some phrase like that, encourages people to be public facing. There's a lot of, those block watch groups have got a lot of whole security issues around them. So, but that's the best we can do right now. Yep,
Cindy, may I interject something? I'm sorry.
Just a sec. Jody
I-
was on mute and her mouth was moving. And then Cheryl.
At least they're willing to talk about it, which they weren't before. So that's a step in the right direction. Thank you.
Yeah.
Over.
Cheryl.
I promise you, I will check on this tomorrow because I have a connection with Ballard Hardware, and that's exactly where we got our locks. No problem. They recess nicely in the neck boxes that we have.
Okay.
And their combination. So
Great.
yeah.
Let us know. That would be super.
Okay.
Okay.
Jack
so
did put something in
says-
the chat. So there was a suggestion he made there that that's something that might work. If that'll work, I'm definitely gonna check it out. Great, thanks.
Hang on, I'm writing that down.
That's what we have in our box. Our box requires 2 locks that are recessed, and that particular master lock fits them.
Yours is a knack box, or is yours kind of like a big storage container?
Knack box.
Okay, good. Okay, thank you. Okay, the last topic, and then I can stop, is I gotta find this. Bear with me while I close some windows. I've apparently got too many things open to get to stuff. Okay. On the agenda, I believe I have talked about this before. And it was back when we were looking at populations and language speakers, but Vince Thompson, brain cramp, it'll come back, Vance, reminded me of this. FEMA sends out newsletters of, updated tools and stuff. So I wanted to point this out to people. So the URL is in your agenda. So if you want to do this, Ann and I tested this and it seems like the bandwidth works well enough to be able to demo it live. So once you enter that URL, you come to this landing page and you want to access the tool. And do some serious zooming. Yes, I agree to whatever terms you just told me about. And I tend to just jump into West Seattle because it's just easier for me. You can see more stuff here. So once you zoom into, whatever neighborhood you're looking at, the only thing I'm demonstrating tonight is that you can click on these buildings and it will show you infrastructure, things that you can add. So you can go into this ahead of time and go, I'm going to do nursing homes first. And so you see all the purple dots that have shown up. So I'm going to click on this one because I was going like, why does the big Mount St. Providence building in West Seattle have 2 dots? So there's a set of retirement apartments, and that has 122 beds. And there is the nursing home, and it has 215 beds. So this is pretty cool. And then it will tell you how many vulnerable seniors are in your neighborhood. So you just click on each of them, and they're in my neighborhood. I know all of these, none of them were surprises, but it was really nice to have it on the map. And then you could add in, dialysis centers. Once I did that, I went, where did it go? Well, it's down here. We've got 1 in all of West Seattle, but at least we can get to it without going across a bridge. And then I went, let's see if there's any hospitals. And sure enough, 1 popped up, but it is a mental health hospital. Okay. And they've told us don't come here for critical care, but more vulnerable populations. And then the other one is pharmacies. RX Open is a program that runs all the time, and it keeps track of open pharmacies. So really useful in hurricane times, you know, when pharmacies are coming back and opening. We don't, you know, if you can't get to the internet to go look at the website RX Open, maybe we can get our ham guys on internet to take a look at this and tell us which ones they're reporting open, so we can go physically check, you know, each of these. So again, each of them you can pop up and verify you knew about them in some way. So that's kind of like the infrastructure. And then down here you can add in places worship, public schools, prison boundaries, who knew? All sorts of other stuff, but it's very good for finding what's in your urban element. And see, as I clicked them, I can scroll in, scroll out. So it doesn't do it just for the screen area that I'm zoomed in on. Any questions on this before I close out?
Just a recommendation of kind of how to use this. I would, for my community, I'm going to print this out and kind of put it with the volunteer coordinator. Because if there's not a lot going on and I've got volunteers sitting around, I don't want to have to think about it. If it's not written down, I won't do it. I want to be able to send, you know, you 3 people go check on that facility. You 2 go check on that facility. So if there's downtime, send your volunteers out to check on the vulnerable populations and come back with information about how things are going.
Right.
So that's for me, that's how I plan on using it, is printing it out for the volunteer coordinator.
Yep. And well, in the HubCap book for sure, you know, and for pharmacies too. I mean, if you had a Boy Scout and you said, go to the Rite Aid, I'm not sure they are paying attention to pharmacies yet. Anything on a map is better than having to describe it in the time of stress when, you know, you can't even say your own name 3 times in a row. So good comment, Ann. Okay, I think that took it to the end of the official stuff on the agenda. Thank you, Gabrielle.
Yeah, we had the next section, which I don't think we have any specific items to update. Network news or status on current projects. Does that ring any bells for either of you, Ann or Cindy? Nothing right now.
No, that catches everything that we forgot to put up above. So I think that's everything with status.
Yeah.
So we'll keep going. I'm going to skip first to the bottom and highlight upcoming dates. November 17th, we're going to have our next HubCap meeting. That's going to be a week early because of Thanksgiving. And then the deep dives have moved from Tuesdays to the Thursdays between the regular HubCap meetings. So our next deep dive will be October 27th. And then I think I'll put on the final agenda that I sent out that there wouldn't be a December meeting. That would be a deep dive meeting, but we're not going to have that. Okay, so just to have mentioned that. Now we can go back to the around the room and we'll see if people have something to share. And I know Cindy often starts in the Northwest. So is there anybody here from the Northwest area that would like to share any updates that they have or any information they would like to share?
I just wanted again to mention that Jody Grage is now the co-hub captain with Colin Getty at Ballard Commons. And once the fence comes down around Ballard Commons, we can actually get to that box, you know, to see what has happened to that box, because we don't know. But otherwise, we're fine. I mean, we're like slowly plugging along.
Jody, I have a couple things. First of all, I am going to, I've got a couple connections that I will see if I can find out about the box, and also, you know, if the earthquake hits in 2 days, how we get in there. The other thing I wanted to say was that if anyone hasn't read it, there's a fabulous book called A Paradise Built in Hell by Rebecca Solnit, who is a great author. And it has to do, she's done a lot of research on disasters going back to the San Francisco fire, and wonderful communities come out of those. And there's a lot of lessons to be learned from what works and what doesn't. And one of the things she points out is that when the authorities come down heavy-handedly, things head south. So I think because they're afraid of looters and all this stuff, where if you get enough people with a good community, you get soup kitchens. So I'm thinking that the more active and vibrant the emergency hubs are, the less the authorities will feel that they need to call the shots. So I see that as another aspect of what we were doing. But this is A Paradise Built in Hell. It's an absolutely fabulous read. So if you haven't read it, I suggest that you get that out. I also have made a connection with a group called Herbalists Without Borders, which functions like Doctors Without Borders, only with medicinal plants, etc. And I am thinking that it would be good. There are a lot of herbalists in Seattle, of course, Bastille and all that. And I think they too never talk to each other. But if we have, if when the shit hits the fan, it would be nice if they did talk to each other and if we had some medicinal plant backups. Right now, there is an Herbalists Without Borders group in Spokane and another one in Eugene, Oregon, but nothing in this area. But I think that's something that I would like to follow up on. I must admit the learning curve here is going to be a bit steep because I haven't done anything with emergency preparedness for probably 2 decades, maybe 3. But I have done a lot of peacekeeping and stuff, and I figure that's helpful too.
And community building. So you know how important it is to get these people connected together ahead of time. Right, yes. It's nothing you can do after the ground stops shaking. So it's going to take me a while to get familiar with all the information that's there, but I'm enthused and very happy to be working with everyone.
Great. Thanks, Jody. Is there anybody else in Northwest or North? And then I'll switch to Northeast. Okay, Louise, would you like to go?
Yeah, great. Our open house drill is this Saturday at St. Stephen's Church, and you're all invited to come. It's our first time out, so be kind. But we'd love to have you all come and give advice or cheer us on. The address is 4805 Northeast 45th, and it's just east of the park in our neighborhood. And by the way, the park department has quietly reopened our community center.
Ooh, interesting.
And
what time is your event, Louise?
10 to 12. Sorry, thank you, great, Gabrielle.
Can you throw the address in the chat?
Yeah, I can try.
Well, after you're done talking.
I'm done. That's it. I'd love to have you come. That was basically it.
I forgot to mention that Ballard Commons the emergency preparedness crew there is going to have a table at the Sustainable Ballard Festival, which is this Saturday at Loyal Heights. It's from 11 to 2.
Great, thank you. I will just say for my hub, we have not done much. We're not having an opening like the Laurelhurst people, but I did get my 3-year memo of agreement with Children's Hospital because I'm on one of their learning center sites. It changed from a 3-year agreement to an ongoing agreement. So I don't have to worry about connecting with their lawyer and all the things that I had to do, which was a lot of this year. It took me literally like 12 emails. So that's my update that I have for today. So let's see, Matt, did you have anything you want to share?
I don't think I have anything.
Okay. Anybody else in the North?
Yeah. I wanted to say, Gabrielle, now that we have our community center back, I wanted to do an urban skills fair with you all. And maybe
Okay.
we could do it there next spring or summer at the community center. Because I think that would be that location issue. I think that would be a great location for the people around the lake.
Yeah, that would be great. All right, I think, what do you
Ann?
move to next? Is it
Ann's got
Belltown?
a
Is
hand
that
up.
what you call
I
it?
gotta-
Oh, Ann?
Sorry, Gabrielle, I got a couple things for the northeast side at least. So we lost Pat Mork. She was on the call earlier, but she had to drop for some reason. She is in Broadview currently, looking at a skills fair mid-October-ish. So more to come about that. I wanted to share my screen really quick and just give you the visual for I'm calling it the disaster practice. I think it's a little friendlier than disaster drill. I don't know. It may not make an ounce of difference, but this is the, promotion for it. The QR code down at the bottom, that's to sign up if you want to have a role in the hub drill. I'd love it if you guys want to do that. I'm, obviously trying to get my community engaged like we all are, but I can't fill 12 spots on the site. So if anybody wants to practice in a hub role, please visit the sign up sheet and take it. It's a small, for me, it's a short drill. It's 10 to noon. So we are setting up the hub, running through some scenarios, just typical stuff. And then we're also, the picture of the radios is up here, is because we're practicing sending out those out of area messages using ham radio operators. So I'm hoping the pictures of guys on radios is more interesting than a hub tent. But so that's the drill that we're doing. Couple other things. I am teaching another round of classes, which some of you on the call have attended. They're every Wednesday night for 6 Wednesdays in a row from 7 to 7:30, a fairly limited amount of time. We cover 2 topics, and I'll have that sign up information in the notes. That class starts October 12th. Feel free to to push it out to your communities. Unless Zoom gives me a bunch of grief, everyone's welcome. So class coming up, the deep dives you heard, we're moving them to the 4th Thursday of the month. And then I'm getting ready to send out the second, what I'm calling prep steps. I sent out the first one and it was kind of like a half sheet of paper if you printed it, just saying, I forgot what the first one was about. I think it was alert capabilities. So alert Seattle, alert King County, and smart 911. So the second one's on its way out. I can't for the life of me remember what it is, but it's pretty much done. So and sending to you guys for you to send out to your community. Any feedback you have, I would love it. They're pretty boring looking. They're not attractive. They're not glamorous or colorful or anything like that. So I know that's an issue. I just need to work on it.
And if for the classes, I could get something that wasn't on a PDF, like some word text, then that makes it easier for me to share it on Nextdoor or someplace like that.
Absolutely. Okay. And when I send the next one out, I will send it in 3 different formats: PDF, also a Word document, and then a lot of people need to be able to post it as a photo, as a JPEG file or something like that. So I'll send all 3 out. It'll be the same information, just different formats, so you can share it. Oh yeah, I'll do that, Cindy. And then let's see, that's it. That's all that's going on in my neck of the woods. And I told you about Pat. Yeah. Okay.
All right. Great. Thanks. What do you do next? Not Central, Belltown. What do you call it, Cindy?
Central West and Central East and Central Core.
Okay. So let's do Central West. Is there anyone from that area that would like to share an update?
I'll start now and I'll pass it off to Frank. Queen Anne, we haven't done much with our hub. In fact, we sort of have a lack of people involved, but at the same time, we're closely allied with Paula Mueller, who has a Block Watch network. So she has sort of networked with all the Block Watch and Snap people and have promoted snaps and stuff like that. So we have kind of a loose organization here, but and they're all aware of what the hub is, but we only have the one hub, and that's me, and some of the stuff is still in my basement. Last weekend, I went to Queen Anne Days, kind of half hoping to maybe do some promotion, but the Queen Anne Chamber kind of dropped the ball and it was pretty weak. In fact, they didn't even have a table manned. So I just helped set up and check IDs and stuff like that. So that was about it. Frank, you got more to say about Summerfest?
Yeah, I was down at Summerfest for a while with two of the people who sit in our Miqua things on Thursday night. We made some interesting outreach to people in the community. And one of the ladies who came by lives down on Perkins Lane. Excuse me, lives down on Perkins Lane. And Pam and I and Catherine talked about, and we're looking at doing it early October, what kind of radio signal strength test we can run on Perkins Lane, north and south, in GMRS and ham. So that's one thing. And the other thing is, back in February, Ron asked me if I'd take over the Monday night GMRS nets. And in the last month or couple, 2 or 3 months, we've had an average of 10 people checking in from different hubs all over the place. And I would suggest that you encourage any people in your hub who haven't stepped out with their radio and try it. See what your contacts are. I know sometimes when I'm in West Seattle, I have to go up on a park in 35th and Barton, up in that area, pretty high up to get enough elevation to run it from there. But anyway, yeah. So anybody in your hubs who has a BTEC or whatever, ICOM, check in. I can send it out what the frequencies are. It's just 1, 2, 4, and 6. And the 5th Monday, there is none. So that's my stuff.
Great. So I think then we move to Central East.
Catherine Keller, do you want to tell them about the FEMA thing with Bird Bar Place?
Sure. Yeah, I was going to say there's nothing specifically about my hub, but I think Madison Valley Group is making some progress. But I won't speak for them. And Cindy and I attended a session on resiliency that FEMA ran with Bird Bar Place. And Bird Bar Place has been a long time community. I mean, I used to go to meetings there all the time before the pandemic, but they're coming out of a period of actually having to completely rebuild their building. It was an old fire station. It was completely unsafe. And, beginning to talk to people again. So, yeah, there's some opportunities there. I always thought there were opportunities there. The question's going to be, who's willing to do what capacity, and just identifying neighbors around. That community council has been trying to identify neighbors around literally in that area. So so we might see something evolve.
Yeah. The important thing about Bird Bar is that when the Central District was the African American community in Seattle, it was a very vibrant area. But as people have moved out, they've said, our mission is going to be for African Americans, no matter where they are in the city. So they're a point of contact for where enclaves have, still are existing that we don't often get to run across in typical hub outreach. So down in the Rainier Valley. So they, and part of their mission is community resilience. And they literally were talking about, because it was a FEMA sponsored webinar, how will they communicate with the Black community during disasters? And it
Yeah.
was like, oh my God, somebody say the word hub, but they never did. So
Well,
Catherine and I are gonna follow up with them and introduce her to our work.
well, I mean, there's a currency in, and I attend a lot of stuff that's Black community based because we're desperately working on bringing people back to the central area, by the way. But it is a very important question, and this is in the urban planning realm and all the rest. How do you build community when you're physically no longer, segregated and redlined into one location? It's a good deal, yeah. And I mean, this is where we get into like radio hubs, because we're not talking city then, we're talking county.
So the other thing I'll add about the Madison Valley folks is they they're getting an MOA signed with the FAME Center on MLK, which is a community, it was an old school that was bought by a community group. It's run by the American AME, African
AME.
Methodist, blah, blah,
Yeah,
church. That's their board. So they service Black youth. And so the Madison Park folks are almost there with a box, and he's already done outreach at farmers markets. And so they'll probably have a practice next year.
Great, thank you. Charlotte, I think you would be Central East. Do you have anything you'd like to add?
We're trying to kind of gear up again, and we are currently communicating with Parks and Recreation, Andy Sheffer, about how to activate, Cal Anderson Park, is still kind of the planned hub site. And we're going to try and kind of get with maybe a local security company right there in the Oddfellows building, and more community organizations. Last month, we did try and have the Pacific Seismic Network team try and do a demonstration at our Ferry Festival with an actual live earthquake sensor. And we thought that would be a great fit to connect the Ferry Nature Festival with Mother Earth shaking, and coming at earthquake preparedness from understanding, our huge climate change. So I'm interested in any ideas if you guys have to connect more with schools and youth, and kind of a Paw Patrol way of making earthquake preparedness a little bit more fun. But it is interesting. I'm with all these hurricanes that are going on. Interestingly named Fiona, Gaston now, and Hermione. There's another hurricane tropical storm out there called Hermione. Interestingly, all three seem to be like Disney character names. I'm hoping that encourages people to get in the mind frame of being prepared, not just for earthquakes, but that being said, we're just kind of starting up and trying to become a little bit more stronger. And if any suggestions or things, but we're going to try and actively look at what you guys are doing and start gearing things up.
Hey, Charlotte, will you please work with Ann and me? Because we had discussions with Parks Department about whether or not we could put a hub, any kind of a hub in Cal Anderson. And they said they would want to review it before they just said yes. So we got to talk about where you're thinking about putting it. So as you progress, make sure you keep us informed.
Sure, will do.
Great, thanks. You might have even been considered core, but I called you Central East. So anybody in core? No, all right, I guess we go down to Southeast and then Southwest.
Susan.
So thanks so much to Ann and Cindy for coming to our Urban Skills Fair at El Centro de la Raza. up on Beacon Hill. Oh, what was that?
Oh, I was trying to point to Ann. It was all Ann. I just
Oh,
showed
okay,
up at
but
the
you
end.
came out, you showed up too. And speaking of the problem with pharmaceutical drugs, that was one of the big questions I had from a participant. He was, worried about his diabetic medications, and I had no answer for him. So, and I guess that's right. There is no answer at this point. So that was helpful. It was a great event. You never quite know what's happening up there, who's going to show up, but we had a mini booster event where people got their COVID boosters, their third boosters. So that was great. And it was successful. It was held at the same time as a community arts fair. So people came in and it was nice to, connect with folks in the community again about in our community that is pretty polarized in many ways. On a good note about Daejeon Park Hub specifically, we got together recently, just last weekend actually, for the first time since the pandemic, and very lightly I informed all the new residents about the existence of a hub at Daejeon Park, and so that was fun. There's a good feeling of community in the neighborhood. We've had many. We just had a lot of things happening. We've had over 100 people in tents during the pandemic who are now relocated. So we're kind of pulling back together and handling whatever happens. I mean, it's the community is coming back together at Daejeon Park. And we have been fortunate that we haven't had our hub box broken into because it's on private property. Otherwise, it'd be gone, I'm sure. So yeah, that's what I have to report. It's just hope I'm feeling somewhat optimistic. And I'm also in touch with the Beacon Garden House, which was purchased by Historic Seattle. And I'm encouraging them to put a hub in the basement, which will be retrofitted. If El Centro de la Raza doesn't come through with a hub there, then this is right across the street. So hopefully we'll be able to locate an emergency hub in that structure.
Great, thanks.
Mm-hmm.
Anybody else from Southeast? Catherine, were you trying to speak?
No, I think she was typing and it picked her up.
Okay. Anybody else? Okay, Southwest.
I stayed unmuted because I knew I was going to. So Erica had to drop off. Nothing new with their hub after the fire took out the building. The hub box wasn't even touched. So that was a miracle. We're just waiting for things to get rebuilt and install it.
She left a message in the chat. Actually, it says our hub may start getting rebuilt next year. There's a plan to rebuild it. Yeah, great.
And then I've got a couple West Seattles, and then I remembered one that should have gone up in that other announcement section. So I'll do West Seattle first. I think I may have said this, but just in case I didn't, we have a new hub captain at the Salvation Army. They rotate out every couple of years. So the new guy's in, and I've started onboarding him. We have a new hub captain at Fauntleroy. The original hub captain from, like 2009 finally said, okay, I'm ready to retire. And so he's got a new hub captain, and she's tabling at the upcoming Fall Fauntleroy Festival. And then we had a hub captain move from the EC Hughes hub, and he has put out a call for a replacement. If he doesn't get a replacement, then I've told him I may pull the box in, because if we don't have anybody there, and there's not many neighbors left who are part of the original training, there's been a lot of turnover in that neighborhood. So if there's really not anybody there, it's a waste of supplies sitting there. So I'm going to give it a couple of, at least a month or two to, see what happens with that call for a replacement. And then we'll have a discussion about a hub box. And I did there's two pea patches that are growing here in the south, growing here in the south end. One of them is at West Crest, and we have a community hub captain, and we're looking for the gardener co-captain. but Nate New is the person who's working with the West Crest folks, and we did a Hub 101 training for them. Not many attended, and the same problem down at Mara Farms. That was the weekend, same weekend as El Centro, where the air quality, where they were telling everybody to stay inside. So both of these outdoor trainings kind of like, oh, that was a problem. But both of them had Spanish interpreters, and we made some good, the other one was at Mara Farms down in South Park. We made some good in connection with some Spanish interpreters who are really interested in this topic and want to help us and have ideas on, how to do social media outreach, especially within the Hispanic community. So that was cool. And then I think I may have gotten a new co-captain for my own hub. We got a person who moved here from New York, who was one of their CERT Corps members and was really interested in that. And she's like, tell me about these hubs. So I've met with her once. The other thing, any questions on West Seattle? So the other one I forgot to announce, it just came out today. I don't know if anybody's really going to be interested in this, but I'm going to put it out there. It's called a supply chain workshop, and they've had these for about 6 years. COVID, I think during COVID, they didn't do them because everybody in the supply chain was working triple overtime trying to connect the supply chain. And it's October 18th, all day long. And it's going to be both in person at Highline College and online. And I'm going to send the flyer out because if you're interested in supply chain, it's just really interesting because you listen to the behind the scenes stuff. And their theme this year is like all the buzzwords put together. It's building resilience through sustainability. But, just listening to the trucking companies talk about what it was like to move things around is really interesting. So I don't know that anybody's got, whole day in the middle of a work day, but, maybe they haven't put out the agenda yet, but you might want to register. It's free. It's no big deal.
Cindy,
Just to get to see what the agenda is going to be. Yeah, Catherine?
Cindy, a whole other context though. Do they include rail when they're talking about supply chain?
Yep. I mean, they're talking the manufacturer, they're talking all the way from kind of the warehouse through all forms of distribution and then at the receiving end.
Yeah, my other life, I'm involved in a whole lot of rail infrastructure, supporting more of it type stuff. So yeah.
It's just, because there's no test at the end, it's kind of fun to be able to just learn about how America works, and stuff I would have never known about.
Well, I did a lot of IT work in supply chain back in the 90s.
Yeah.
Well, I knew those truckers. They're like really cool people finding oranges for the front of the store in Michigan, and when the Florida truck goes off the road.
I'm sure that the stories we're going to get from here are going to be around the supply chain problems during COVID. So it's going to be really interesting because that whole COVID thing is really what I think is going to happen during earthquakes. It's just going to collapse, and how do the heroes come through? So I'll send that out today or tomorrow.
Is that it, Cindy?
That it.
Okay, great. Anybody that didn't share that would like to? Or any last items? And Cindy, do you have anything else you would like to mention? The upcoming meeting dates are on the agenda. We have the Laurelhurst date and a couple other dates that were tossed out for upcoming events. Anyone else have anything they want to share? Okay, then I guess we're getting ready to end early.
No. I'm going to say, Gabrielle, fantastic job.
Oh, thank you very much.
Yep, Gabrielle was sweating getting that agenda out, and we were working to get the new link, and I did not have a single person go to the old link. So that's fantastic. So now she's got the other half of it, which is get this onto a YouTube and uploaded. So thank you, Gabrielle. Gina's out of town. That's why she's not co-hosting tonight.
Right, we're doing take turns or something. We haven't figured out the details yet, but we're going to work it out.
Yeah,
the two of us.
Thank
you. Great. I'm still trying to figure out how to log into some of the accounts, but Anne is helping me. So we've got a few logistical problems with.
And she got us out early. What more can you ask?
Yeah, great. But we got a lot of information. I've got like 5 pages of scribbled notes. So, all right. Thank you, everyone. Thank you very much. We'll see you again.
Matt asked a question in the chat, and I wanted to see if Frank can I can get him
Oh.
his information. Just don't close us out quite right away.
Me?
You
Yeah,
said,
Matt, you asked a question about repeaters. I don't know if anybody had answered that.
Yeah, no, well, Anne emailed me the chirp file.
She emailed you the
Um,
info.
Yeah.
It doesn't
great.
exactly answer the question, unfortunately. I'm looking at this and
well, we've traditionally called the repeaters those numbers because there's only 4 repeaters in all of Seattle that are GRMS that are
Okay.
our hubs. So
so that map that I showed you at the hub event, I imported those into my radio as I just marked it as hub 1 through 4 with the sector, like northeast, northwest in the title. Looking at the list that Ann sent, I just see like memory position 23 is RPTCH1.
so channel
I don't know
1
if that's
is the repeater that is physically located in West Seattle. This has been the pattern since they were established.
Yeah.
Now Frank has to help me because I get screwed up here.
that's what I've
Number
got. Like, so
2
for instance, this is my radio, and I've got I don't know if you can see it.
Move it back a little bit and then we can
Yeah,
kind
no,
of.
I can't read it.
Oh, it's
Yeah,
focusing
no,
on
we
the
can't
face.
read it.
But Matt, what I'm trying to tell you is this is a common language that we use among the hub captains. So 1 is West
Mhm.
Seattle, 2 is Beacon Hill, 4 is Queen Anne Magnolia, and 6 is Maple Leaf. Those are the locations in the city and the sectors that those guys, kind of are our primary assignments to.
Okay. I've got those sectors in my radio. I mean, it literally says southwest, southeast, northwest,
Mm-hmm.
southwest. Yeah, 1 is southwest, 2 is southeast. I have 3 northwest and 4 northeast. So you're just calling what I call 4 is 6.
Sure.
4. Okay, so repeater number 4 is in the central west sector. And repeater number 6 is in the northeast sector.
Yeah. So
Matt,
3
do
I have
you-
marked as northwest.
Matt, do you have what you need to make so that you can get on the Monday night nets?
Yeah, I've been joining the nets, but I've just been flipping between those 4 channels, listening for the net.
Gotcha.
So yeah, I have this this PDF that's like hub book page 17 radio operator edition. Is that out of date then?
Not with the GMRS repeaters. Those haven't changed.
Okay. For some reason the names I grabbed are different. Let me see.
So for anybody else that wants to get off, I think we're officially done. Feel free to stop off, but feel free to stay on if you're interested.
Yeah. Okay. So this is the sheet that I started with. I guess these are the numbers that I was going by.
No,
Just
no,
1
no.
through
See
4.
repeater, go over to column 3.
Yeah. Yeah. You see repeater channel 1, 2, 4, 6, 8. Okay. And is this last one gone now? Or, oh, I can't highlight that row.
No, it's a secret. So Ron is still working with the city. The city wants to use that. And it's a spare one that we don't advertise.
Okay. So in my radio, I should label them 1, 2, 4, 6
Yep.
instead of 1, 2, 3, 4.
Yep.
That's all.
Yeah.
I think
so
they
confused.
line up the same. I just marked them as 1, 2, 3, 4.
Sure.
Cool.
Okay. That's all.
All right. Good night, everybody.
All right, good night,
Night.
everyone.
Good job,
Take care.
Gabrielle.
Oh, and I have one question. The chat will save, right? The chat saves
No,
automatically.
you have to save it.
Okay.
Wait, no, post.
It saves automatically.
I think the
Post
chat
will
saves
save.
automatically. I've
Yes.
just never accessed it when I've done it. So,
I had to switch my brain from Cindy running it where it always saved to you. Now I have to save it if I want it.
right. So it will save automatically and I will have it if I can pull anything out of there.
It'll
Okay.
be one of the download files that comes from the meeting.
Yeah.
All right.
All right,
And
see you
I'll
guys.
probably be in touch with Anne in the next day or two to figure out what I need to do next. All right. Take care, everyone. Nice to see you.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Frank, you still there?
Yeah.
What's up with, sorry, Gabrielle, can you stay? on
That's
for just
okay.
a
Yeah,
second?
I can wait.
What's up with your voice? Are you okay?
I had 2 PRCs this week. They were both negative. I was fine on that, but I tested positive on a strep test today.
Oh, no.
no.
So I looked up what is convulsive coughing. So I'm going to talk to my doctor tomorrow.
Oh, I'm so sorry.
Oh, thank you, thank you.
Oh my gosh.
But I have friends who, a good friend who was going to go to Australia and visit his family. He was going to leave today, and he came down with COVID.
Oh,
So
man. Oh, geez. I was gonna make this was my plan, Frank. I was gonna make a comment to the group about how sexy your voice sounds. And I thought, oh, that's maybe not in the best of taste. And then I was gonna send it to just you. And I went, no, let me just see how he's doing.
well, I'll take a completely asexual voice to be able to swallow. But I will say two things. The Kaiser people who were fantastic. The consulting nurse I worked with, Colleen, went through everything on postnasal drip. And I had made a note myself to ask her about strep. And I spaced on it. And she added that into the end because she had her checklist. So when Kaiser said, how are you going to review the service of these guys? I'm going to say, I give them an 11 if I could.
Right.
It was really quite good. So, and they dropped off the meds tonight. The courier came over and just dropped them off.
Wow,
Wow.
that's great.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Nice. Well, I hope you feel better.
So
Yes.
do I. So do I.
Yeah.
I've been
All
eating
right.
a lot of ice cream bars.
Oh, yeah,
There
that
you
helps.
go. There you go. That helps.
Bye-bye, ladies.
All right. Good
Bye,
night.
Frank. Have a good night. Bye, Ann. Thanks for your
Bye,
help.
Gabrielle. Thank you.